On September 11th, 2001, the world changed in a heartbeat. And that single day kicked off one of the most intense, sprawling, and expensive manhunts in all of human history. Today, we're going to dive deep into that 10-year story. A story of intelligence, sheer patience, and the relentless mission to find the world's most wanted man. It all began with a number it's hard to even wrap your head around it. Nearly 3,000 lives lost in a series of shocking, coordinated attacks. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was a declaration of war from an enemy you couldn't even see. The response was, as you can imagine, immediate and absolutely massive. Out of all that smoke and rubble, one crystal clear objective emerged: find the person responsible and bring him to justice.
To really understand the hunt, we have to go back to that day. We have to understand the man who planned it all.
And that man, of course, was Osama bin Laden. Now, he was the son of a super wealthy Saudi family, but he became a radical ideologue. He took all of his resources and poured them into creating Al-Qaeda, a global terror network with a single primary target: the United States. And here's what's so important to remember. 9/11 didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the brutal, terrifying climax of a decade-long campaign that was just escalating and escalating. From bombings in Yemen to the first attack on the World Trade Center in '93 to the deadly embassy attacks, Al-Qaeda had been practicing its methods and screaming its hatred for years. So, right after the attacks, the US and its allies launched a global war on terror. But their number one target, he had just vanished. Poof. It was like they were hunting a ghost. And this was the fundamental problem, right? This was the massive challenge for intelligence agencies. Since way back in 1998, bin Laden had gone completely dark. No emails, no phone calls. He relied only on trusted human couriers, which made him basically invisible in our modern digital world. They came incredibly close to getting him, right at the very beginning. In the mountains of Tora Bora, US forces had him and his fighters completely cornered. But after days of intense fighting, bin Laden just slipped away. He escaped through the mountain passes into Pakistan, and after that, the trail went cold for years. So for years, it was just one dead end after another. It was incredibly frustrating. The big break, when it finally came, wasn't from a high-tech satellite or a drone. Nope. It was from old-fashioned intelligence work, just focusing on one single critical person in bin Laden's inner circle. It was like pulling a single thread in a giant, tangled sweater. It all started with a code name that kept popping up in interrogations: Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. It took years of painstaking work, but by 2007, the CIA finally figured out his real name. 2 years after that, they found him in Pakistan. And then, in August 2010, they tailed him right to the doorstep of a very, very strange compound. And that place was this huge compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, which, by the way, is a military town. He wasn't in some remote cave. He was hiding in a city, right under everyone's noses, just behind some really, really high walls. And this is why the CIA got so obsessed with this place. I mean, look at this list. Nothing about it made any sense. The walls were 18 feet high with barbed wire. The property had no phone lines, no internet connection. They burned all their trash instead of putting it out. And the clincher? Satellite photos showed this tall man who would walk around the courtyard for exercise, but he never, ever left the compound. They started calling him the Pacer. So, and this is the crucial part, they never got a crystal clear photo of his face, not once. But all this circumstantial evidence just piled up, and it was overwhelming. The CIA became convinced, like 95% certain, that their Pacer was the most wanted man in the world. But think about that. A 95% certainty also means there's a 5% chance you're about to make a catastrophic mistake. The evidence was strong, but it wasn't a sure thing. So after months of intense debate, weighing all the incredible risks, like, a secret military raid inside another country, President Barack Obama gave the green light. He authorized one of the most daring special ops missions in American history. The codename was Operation Neptune Spear. The entire mission hinged on complete and total surprise. To sneak into Pakistani airspace without being detected, they used 2 top-secret, specially modified stealth Black Hawk helicopters. Nobody had ever seen anything like them before. And on board those helicopters, 23 of the most elite soldiers in the U.S. military, from the unit you might know better as SEAL Team 6.
They had an unbelievably tight window. Once they hit the ground, they had to breach the compound, clear 3 floors, find their target, and get out. The whole thing was planned to take just 40 minutes.
Once they were inside, the SEALs moved with deadly speed. On the first floor, they took out the courier, the man who led them there, along with his brother and his brother's wife. On the second floor, they ran into and killed bin Laden's adult son, Khalid. And then finally, on the third floor, they came face to face with the man they'd been hunting for a decade. Back in the White House Situation Room, you can just imagine the tension. Then, after what must have felt like an eternity, the confirmation came through. CIA Director Leon Panetta delivered the simple, powerful, history-making message to the president.
With the SEALs and bin Laden's body safely out of Pakistan, it was over. The 10-year hunt had finally come to an end. And the world was about to find out.
Late that night, President Obama addressed the nation and the world, confirming that the man behind the 9/11 attacks had at last been brought to justice. So in total, 5 people were killed during that raid. Osama bin Laden himself, his son Khalid, the courier Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, the courier's brother Abrar, and Abrar's wife Bushra. The U.S. then faced a pretty tricky problem. What do you do with the body? They absolutely wanted to avoid creating a shrine or a burial site that could become a rallying point for extremists. After both Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan said they didn't want the remains, the decision was made to perform Islamic rites and bury him at sea. The operation was a stunning success, an incredible feat of intelligence and military precision. But it does leave us with this one kinda unsettling question. After the biggest manhunt in history, how was it that the world's most wanted fugitive lived for years, not in some cave, but in a city, less than a mile from Pakistan's most prestigious military academy? It's a question that has sparked years and years of debate about who else might have known he was there.